So my talk today is about the season of light. So I say Merry Christmas from my heart to yours, and welcome the viewers at home and to those that are not with us here today. Happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas. As we prepare for the Christmas season and are thinking of all the preparations and gifts of loved ones, let us not forget to pray. Pray for those who are not at home with loved ones because they are serving our country near and far. Pray for the first responders locally and around the country. Pray for all those working in the medical fields, keeping care over those that are ill and that are healing. Pray for the world. Pray for peace on earth and goodwill to all men. Let us remember how rich we are in love. Not everyone is celebrating this joyous of holidays because they are mourning, grieving the loss of loved ones, the loss of a job, divorce, or maybe a breakup of a friendship. I recognize that not everyone is in a celebrating mood as I receive calls and emails asking for prayer. I remember just as the sun wakes us to a new day, the Spirit of God within awakens us to divine glory in all creations. This glory within and around us is everywhere we look and in every situation we encounter. I say to myself, I awaken to your spirit within me, dear God, and you see your presence active in all creations. Nothing can disturb the peace of my soul as I am enfolded in the guiding light of God. Every part of my body is infused with the glorious Spirit. I feel it energizing me, and I feel the sense of peace within. Certain that healing has taken place within me and those I pray for. I breathe in your life-giving Spirit and feel your healing activity deep within as I awaken to the all-providing Spirit of God. I am prosperous. I am love. I am joy. I am that reflection of you as you embody this Christmas spirit this day, tomorrow, next week, New Year's, wherever you are. You take that spirit with you. Charles Fillmore says, the fire of spirit is never ceasing. It's life-giving, purifying glory. This is the week before Christmas. There are many people celebrating in their own way this month, from Hanukkah to the season of light around the world. We here at Unity celebrate the Christ consciousness within us and in all beings. I believe this month for most beings brings great joy and connection for people, or it may be to some stress, anxiety, and even depression in their shopping. I remember loved ones that no longer are with us in body, but they're here in spirit. Wherever you are on this holiday, we welcome you here today. This is my desire and prayer that you will be nurtured and nourished by your experience as we celebrate the birth of Jesus. Now, in New Thought, we do not exclusively celebrate the birth of the man, but rather we expand our celebration to the birth of the cosmic Christ in all of us, using the man as our master teacher, because I believe Jesus was our teacher. He was here to teach each and every one of us. He taught that God's compassion embraces all people and all life form. There are no preconditions for it, nothing we need to do first and nothing we have to believe. When we are ready to receive it, it is there. And the more we live in its presence, the more effectively it flows through us. As we celebrate what it means to live from a place of cosmic or Christ consciousness today, we are putting on the Christ season. I'm going to grab something different. Shut me off. It keeps cutting in and out, so I'm going to go a different way. So as we celebrate what it means to live from a place of cosmic or Christ consciousness today, we are putting on the Christ season of light as we come together, which reminds me of a story. You always know I have a story for you, right? Well, this one may not be entirely true, but Snoopy says it's a possibility. But it's a good one, and it applies to our work here today. So as we look at it as a parable. It is told that a seminar professor was vacationing with his wife in Tennessee. And one morning they were eating breakfast at a little restaurant, hoping to enjoy a quiet family meal. While they were waiting for their food, they noticed a very distinguished white-headed man walking around to each table. And he whispered to his wife, "I hope he doesn't stop here." But sure enough, the man did come over to their table. "Where are you folks from?" he asked in a friendly voice. They answered, "We're from Oklahoma." "Great to have you here in Tennessee," the stranger said. "And what do you do for a living, sir?" "I teach at a seminar," he replied. "Oh, so you teach preachers how to preach, do you?" "Well, I've got a really good story for you." And with that, the gentleman sat down at the table with the couple. And the professor groaned. And he thought to himself, "Great, just another preaching story. Just what I need today." The man started. He said, "See that mountain over there?" Pointing out the window. Not far from the base of the mountain, there was a little boy born to an unwed mother. He had a hard time growing up because every place he went, he was always asked the same question. "Hey boy, who's your daddy?" And whenever he was in school or at a grocery store or out in the town, people would ask the same question. "Who's your daddy?" He would hide at recess and lunchtime from other students, and he would avoid going into stores where there were people, because he knew that they would ask the question, "Who's your daddy?" So he felt very, very bad, and he was a very, very lonely boy. And when he was about 12 years old, a new preacher came to the church, and the little boy would always go in early and sneak in, and he would sneak out after the service. But one day, the preacher said the benediction really short, and the little boy got caught. So he had to go out with the other people, and he was really dreading it. So just about the time he got to the door, the new preacher, not knowing anything about the little boy, put his hand on his shoulder and he said, "Son, who's your daddy?" He could feel the eyes of those around him looking at him. Now everyone would finally know the answer to the question, "Who is your daddy?" This new preacher, he sensed the situation around him, and tapping on to his shoulder and tapping into his own intuition, said to the scared little boy, "Wait a minute, I know who you are. I see that familiar resemblance. Sure enough, you are a child of God." With that, he patted the boy on the shoulder and said, "You've got a great inheritance. Go and claim it." And with that, the boy smiled and he walked out the door, a changed person. He was never the same again. From then on, whenever anybody asked him, "Who's your daddy?" he would just tell them, "I'm a child of God." The distinguished gentleman got up from the table and said, "Isn't that a great story?" And the professor responded that it really was a great story, and thought that he actually would share that with his seminar students. And as the man turned to leave, he said, "You know, if that new preacher hadn't told me that I was one of God's children, I might not have amounted to anything today." And he walked away. The seminar professor and his wife were stunned, and he called the waitress over and asked her, "Do you know who that man was that was sitting at our table?" The waitress grinned and said, "Oh, of course, honey, everybody knows him. That's Ben Hooper. He's the former governor of Tennessee. Great story, isn't it? I kind of really love that. I read that and I thought, yeah, we never know who's going to sit at our table, right? So God's compassion embraces all people. There are no preconditions for it, nothing that we need to do for us and nothing we have to believe. When we are ready to receive it, it is there. And the more we live in it, in its presence, the more effectively it flows through us. We don't have to do or be anything in order to receive God's love and compassion. There are no preconditions for it. It is bestowed on all of us, whether it is a fatherless little boy from Tennessee or you and me. You know, and it reminded me of when I was a little girl growing up, because I was always told my dad wasn't my dad. And so it was the story that I just read you really resonated to me, because I grew up not knowing until I was an adult who my father was. Because my grandmother always told me, you belong to the milkman. And I would say, the milkman? What's the milkman got to do with my mom? So it's a way of relating, but I can remember walking in and hearing that first word, that I was a child of God, and God was my father. That changed my life many years ago. But it's something to think about. You know, we're never alone. God is always with us, and He is. He is closer than we think. So behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man will open it, I will come in and supper with you. And that is from the Bible. No matter where you are in consciousness, all you have to do is knock, meaning be willing to receive the love of God, and you will find the new experience. Ask Christ's consciousness to open your heart and be willing to change in this season of light through love. Because you are sitting in the center and hearing my voice, I know you are willing to receive the love of God. The more we are willing to not only receive, but then to live in its presence, to putting on the Christ, the more effectively it flows through us. Ernest Holmes says, as the human gives way to the divine in all people, they became the Christ. Jesus gave us the formula to do this when He said, you must be born anew. He meant that we must be reborn to the awareness of the Christ potential within all of us, the light of God within us, so that it may spring forth into expression and illuminate our lives and others. We must live in its presence so it can flow through us. This is the consciousness I invite you to bring to the table this month as we celebrate the joy of life. Charles Fillmore wrote this. The feast of the pure substance of spirit is ever accessible to the individual. Before one can partake fully of the substance of spirit, there must be a willingness to turn the attention to the ideas of spirit, to the exclusion of all outer attractions. Having turned our attention to the invisible substance, we move upon it with our thoughts and words of truth and faith, believing that our words are instantly fulfilled, full in spirit. So as you ask and you go into prayer, the things that you want and desire in your life, please remember, you already have them. They're already there. You are the light. You are the peace. You are the one that carries the truth. Maybe open a door for somebody. Maybe buy a cup of coffee for the person behind you. Maybe send a card to somebody you haven't seen in a long time. Whatever it is in your heart that reaches out to you, remember it 365 days a year, not only at Christmas. Always remember that you are the gift and that you are truly amazing. So in this holiday, it is here, I am here to remind you to put on the Christ, the consciousness of the cosmic Christ, And let it flow through you, around you, as you celebrate the Christ consciousness in your sharing in this season of light and love. And in the quiet of my soul, I hear the sound of my being. And truly remember, love only, forgive everything, and remember who you are. Because you are amazing, incredible, passionate, gifted people. And it's my pleasure to be here today. So with that, we have a special music, Michael.